So wisely, very knowledgeably tell us, how haunted is Singapore?
I would say in the olden days, perhaps yes. But then again, where do you draw the line whether it's haunted or not? A clean place can be haunted.
This episode of Uncool is supported by Mr. Zhou's Ghost Stories. In the depths of the night, Dennis Zhou, also known as Mr. Zhou, invites his celebrity friends and fellow Singaporeans to share their true first-hand local ghostly encounters. And they revisit the sites together to further investigate the supernatural entities that live among us.
你觉得1到10，我们的称点会在哪里？绝对不会到绝对会碰到幽灵。
我是10。你嘞
1。
Mr. Zhou's Ghost Stories is available for viewing now on the MeWatch platform.
Like this show? Then rate it 5 stars and subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Uncool is a podcast by creatives at work. It is produced, written, and hosted by Sean Lee Win Cheong and co-hosted by Yenling Loh, co-produced by Raven Lim, and edited by Ray Ng. Uncool. It's cool to be uncool.
Yenling, some people may find this uncool, right? But, I actually think that supernatural stories are very, very cool. Unless, of course, they happen to you, lah.
Yeah, it is fine when it's generously told by other people, but when it happens to you, then no thanks.
That's why I've got very mad respect today for our guests. They actually went out to chase these stories as told by other people, and then they let it happen to them also. Well, somewhat. So who are we talking about? Well, I've got Kok Hong here. He's a producer and director of this series called Mr. Zhou's Ghost Stories. Sorry, my Chinese very bad, so I'm not going to say the name in Chinese. and then Wisely, he's one of the guests of it, and I think he calls himself like one of the ghost hunters or something. He was on the show. But of course, they'll introduce themselves better than I just did. So yes, I'll let them introduce themselves.
My name is Wisely. So of course, I do have my day job, but as a hobby, as an interest, I'm part of the Society of Paranormal Investigators Singapore. We are interested in investigating anything that's related to supernatural, paranormal.
I'm a television producer, director, and been doing this job for my entire adulthood, I guess. And the show actually was pitched by my colleague at Ochre Pictures. As some of the viewers or listeners out there might know that, like Zhou Chongqing or Dennis Chiu, this MediaCorp artist, has a very popular radio show called 周公讲鬼.
大家晚上好，我是周公，欢迎来到周公讲鬼，哪里有鬼？
The long-running radio show, essentially talking about, ghost stories, right? And we decided to pitch a show as a spin-off from this radio show. And the concept is to basically put together, 3 Singaporeans with one local celebrity in each episode. And we want to bring them to revisit some of these haunted places in Singapore. Because we know that, Singapore is famous for some, ghost stories like be it in army barracks, some reservoirs, certain HDB blocks, cemeteries, etc., etc. So we took the approach of theming the episodes according to certain locations. So each episode, we basically, through the research and talking to friends and contacts and so on, we put together 3 guests who share encountering, supernatural experiences in certain similar locations.
So this show, as you mentioned, is by Ochre Pictures. It's also produced by MediaCorp. It's available on MeWatch. Some episodes are on YouTube, I think.
Actually, all episodes are on YouTube, I think. All episodes. Okay. Yeah.
All episodes on YouTube. So if you want to catch it, you should go catch it there. This is a 5-star rated show. Seriously. I personally, I think I'm absolutely addicted to the show. Very exciting to watch. But then if you ask me, hey, you want to go and shoot or not? I'll say, hey, no, you sell. No, thank you. So exactly how xiao are you?
To be honest, it is definitely not easy to make a show like this because it is factual in nature, meaning it might be a bit easier. It might be a bit easier to make a drama series out of all these ghost stories simply because, you're not exactly revisiting some spooky places, right? That people tell you that, it really happens here, etc., right? I guess first and foremost, I am not very superstitious in nature, meaning, I don't feel like, I might be offending, the spirit and therefore, causing trouble to myself. It's really not just me. I mean, but at the same time, it took quite a lot of effort on us to source for like camera crew, production team members who share my similar view about, hey, let's just go into this with respect and etc. And let's not get too superstitious about it. The good news is that, like we survived, we have made like the entire 8 parts series. We really went to some of the so-called most haunted places in Singapore, and also some spooky experiences really did happen, as Wisely will share later. We survived, my life is still okay, no pantang, no bad, yeah, so it was all good. Yeah.
Wisely you're laughing there, but I'm thinking you're more xiao than Kok Hong, right? Because Kok Hong is actually he's doing this for a check. You are doing it for a hobby. It's like you're doing it for fun.
First of all, for all our listeners out there, I think a lot of them might not even know that. What's the group called? Singapore Paranormal Activity.
Investigators.
Yes.
Investigators.
First and foremost, me and my friends, we are actually very excited and indeed very honored to be part of the production. This is really, like what Kok Hong mentioned, it's a production that is factual. So it's very different from any other shows, that we see overseas. To film something related to paranormal. This is very exciting for us. So basically, we are all one big family with a common interest in paranormal. So many years back, we started off as online platform. So people come to the forum to discuss things related to paranormal. And slowly we evolved and we got a little bit more serious. It's still our hobby, but it's never commercial. So to further expand our interest, we went on to set up get ourselves registered as a society. So we call ourselves Society of Paranormal Investigators Singapore, SPI for short. We are attracted, or rather I'm attracted to, ghost stories, movies, shows, in particular in the early days, right? We have actually those vampire movie from Hong Kong, whereby the the zombie jump around, you stick a yellow piece of paper. Yes. Yeah, so in a way, I'm very attracted to all these topics, you see. So as I grow older, I tend to do more research, and I stumbled upon this platform, this online forum. So I got in, and then along the way, I meet many more people with common interests. For us, we always want to find out the truth. And something unique about us, that we all agree is that we actually use scientific method to find out things related to supernatural and paranormal. But at the same time, we do not just brush, religious, cultural belief aside. We actually incorporate them together. And to a certain extent, I feel that this is what makes this group, our group, unique. Whereby, some other groups out there overseas, they may tend to skew towards to a particular side. So for us, we try to strike a balance. And I think there are good results. We managed to find out and uncover a lot of interesting things along the way just by being open-minded. And we, using scientific. At the same time, we also rely on certain information that we get from various religion and cultural beliefs.
I cannot imagine what your friends and family must think of you when you're doing all of this, though. Like, there's one thing, having an interest, which I myself, I'm a little bit interested in it, but I will not go out and chase such experiences.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just imagining you're at home and like, hey, I'm going out now. Hey, where are you going? So like, I'm going to chase like a supernatural ghost or something.
This is quite true, I think Yeli mentioned, when people run away from ghosts, we do the opposite. Because we actually got one incident, we all heard something, a lady screaming at our ear when we enter a particular building. So the normal reaction for many people will be, to run away. But the three of us, we actually ran forward to try to find out where the sound comes from, So this
I
is...
can imagine the sparkle in the eyes the moment like
Yeah,
you guys
yeah.
It's like everyone will say like, oh my god, I'm going to tell. Then you're like, oh cool, and then you go like run in.
Hey, here's another cool show I need to tell you about. Third Rail is a new Oka Pictures blockbuster. This psychological thriller is about a train ride that goes horribly wrong when a sinister group hijacks a train.
Time to rock and roll. Everybody get down! Get down!
If that's not cool a premise enough, Third Rail was also shot on one of the biggest sets ever built in Singapore. Just how big? Well, big enough for 2 decommissioned MRT train carriages. And you know what else is cool? The cast. It's star-studded, featuring Rebecca Lim, Andy Chen, Vanessa Van der Straten, Nu Aini, and more. I think it's a history-making drama, and for sure, very, very cool. Third Rail is available on MeWatch. That is www.mewatch.sg.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have no wish to hurt anyone. But you will get hurt if you do not follow my instructions.
You can also catch other Ochre Pictures productions such as Justice Boo, Mind Jumper, Last Madame, and all seasons of Lion Mums on the same MeWatch platform. Last Madame is also available on Netflix.
She was their head. This was her house. She was their madame.
You mentioned scientific, so is your day job also related to science?
Kind of true, because we all come from different professions. I'm from the education sector. We have members, who are engineers, who are technicians, in IT, in mechanical. So we are all very scientific people. Yeah.
So let me just get this straight. So you are a science teacher in the day.
Not science teacher, but I'm an educator.
Teacher,
Yeah.
educator.
Yeah.
So wisely, very knowledgeable, very knowledgeably tell us, how haunted is Singapore?
Well, if you ask me how haunted is Singapore, I can tell you it's quite challenging. Look at Singapore now. It is so urbanized. You don't really see the environment, like the offshore island, the barracks, the old houses, Technically, there's no abandoned buildings in Singapore. It's either state-owned or you owned by some people out there. So if you ask me, how haunted, because we must first understand, if there's really spirits and entities, they do not stay there forever. If you actually change the environment, you disrupt the energy level, they may not be there anymore. Either they will just disappear or they will just, go to other places. If some people, who are involved in certain activities that may attract all these entities, they may stay with them. So if you ask me how haunted is Singapore, I would say in the olden days, perhaps yes. All right, with the history of the war, and also with all the old buildings around, the environment is conducive enough for the spirits, the entities to reside. But if you look at it now, it's so urbanized, and everywhere you see is brightly lit. If you ask me whether it's haunted or not, I would not think so, really. But then again, where do you draw the line whether it's haunted or not? A clean place, all right, a very clean place can be haunted, depending on the activities that you do there. Like what Kok Hong mentioned, if you are doing some things, burning incense or what, in a way that's not guided, by certain rules and, so-called, beliefs, you may actually attract entities around. While we do believe in their existence of the ghosts and spirits, but we are always out there to try out to find the definition, the characteristic. So we do not just say that, people just ask, is this place haunted? Tell us a ghost story. So it's not so simple.
I have personally not really experienced, I can't say that I'm a 100% non-believer, but I would rather not totally get involved in this. All right, simply because I feel that I just don't want to think about this thing, because we spend so much time working late into the night. We spend entire life living mostly on our own and all that. So yeah, I just don't want to allow this idea of having another entity around me to kind of like so-called disturb my sense of being able to handle being on my own.
I remember you said that you needed to persuade crew to come and shoot with you.
Certainly, there were some cameramen or soundmen who would rather not get involved simply because they were uncomfortable. There were also other production members like assistant producer or or PA, etc. We had a PA who basically had a panic attack before the first shoot happened. So she quit on us because, she just couldn't deal with it, so we had to be very upfront, of course, from the start when we approach people to assemble the team. So those that were not comfortable, surely, we have to respect that. And the truth is that, I mean, most production personnel, because of the nature of our job, right? I mean, we make factual TV contents, right? So we, pre-pandemic, we used to travel a lot for this kind of productions. So for a lot of guys like me, like we have done all kinds of stories all through our life. So we learn to not allow any judgment to interfere with what we do. Just go in with an open mind. And as I said, like it's not that I do not believe in it. It is the choice to remain respectful and not be too superstitious about it at the same time. And at the same time, that you're not exactly doing anything wrong or bad or offending these entities in the process, right? In fact, you are basically helping them to tell their stories. And as a matter of fact, this is a very strange production because it started out very, very challenging, but somehow it all fell into place very, very smoothly. There's this a popular variety show called Just Swipe La, 说一说. So they also make a whole episode about our show before we launched. And I was telling the script writer back then that, like I have to believe that, the spirit really wanted us to tell their story simply because they were really helping us along the process, because there were so many things that just somehow fell into place.
But to clarify, so everything fell into place. That means on all your shoots, something happened.
No lah, I wish,
because
we wish, we
because
really
because
wish.
I'm just imagining it's factual, right? It's
Yes.
factual, right? So what if you went down there and nothing happened? What is scarier, that you went there and something happened, or you went there and nothing happened, they got to reshoot? Because that's also very scary.
No, the thing is that the concept of the show is about, getting these Singaporeans in each episode to recount their encounters, right? So we did not really seek out, any of these real haunted incidents to happen in the course of our shoot. We did not seek that out in the first place. And to be honest with you, it wouldn't be ethical to seek that out as well, simply because, as you know, even though the camera crew had agreed to it, but it did not mean that they wanted to really, like you guys said earlier, chase after the ghost, right?
anything happen lah.
Yeah, because we don't want anything bad to happen to anybody if we really, really saw an entity in front of our eyes or the camera, right? So seeking out, this real spooky experiences was not part of our agenda. Yeah, our agenda was to just basically find the compelling Singaporean stories and just share it as it is, in the most factual way. And 4 episodes out of 8 that we produced, where we really, really managed to capture some supernatural, incidents on camera. Yeah, so that was good enough.
And it kind of leads me to Wisely, because in this particular episode he was in, something very dramatic happened. I'm not going to say it here, right, and give away any spoiler if you've not watched it on YouTube or Me Watch or something. But I would encourage you to watch it if you haven't. So there you are shooting it in the middle of the dark of nowhere, and all that was happening before your eyes. What's the first thing that came to your mind?
Because I was handling one of the cameras, we had 3 cameras for this shoot, right? So I was shooting. I was just fully focusing on what I was shooting and all that, right? So while the incident happened, I would say, one of the last one to find out, What happened was that in the course of telling the ghost stories in ancient Chinese cemetery on that offshore island, all of us heard certain weird female singing sound coming from the forest. We were basically in the middle of a forest, and the forest, inside the forest, there's this small patch of old Chinese cemetery. You see like Chinese graveyards and tombstones and all that. And then it was true. All of us heard a very faint woman sound. It was like some kind of like singing sound, but it was just somewhere far away. You could even feel like, could it be like someone singing in the while camping in the forest, that kind of sound, right? I then decided to ask my soundman to come with me. Let's go and chase after this. Let's go and record this voice. Let's go into the forest, get as near as we could to the source of the voice, because we wanted to just record it, because everyone in the cast, Chongqing and all that, had already mentioned it. There's something behind us. We could hear it, right? So I said, okay, while everyone was taking a break, I said, two of us, I brought my camera. Then the soundman was like with the boom mic and all that. I told the soundman, hey, shall we go and record the sound of this spooky sound? You also hear, right? You can hear it, right? And he just very gamely said yes. And when he went in, right, he really went all in. He was really just like on his headphone, focusing on like following the source of the sound. And we really, two of us, cut through the cemetery, went deep into the forest, and it was just the two of us, and it was completely pitch dark. Oh, we had like a small little torch, on our forehead, and that was it. Not every soundman would be as willing to do something like this, but that soundman that came on that shoot happened to be completely okay to do that, So two of us just cut through the cemetery and went into the forest and tried to get as close. And the soundman was like, so he was really, really like intense and really, really like recording. And I knew that, we were already getting something, right? So I continued to shoot, and it was pitch dark. I had no lights whatsoever. So I was like just rolling the camera with the highest ISO. And then as I came out of the forest with the soundman, that was when Dennis Chiu Chongqing came to me to say that his face was like all pale. And he said that we have to abort the shoot. We have to get out. We have to get out. We have to get out.
我们现在呢，要马上离开这个地方。Maybe it's best for me to leave this area first, then I'll see how.
That was only when I realized that something went very, very wrong. But because I was in the forest, so I was the last one to find out about it together with the soundman. So this is not something that you could plan or could ask for, like it could be any other soundman that would tell me that, like, hey, sorry, bro, like I don't think it's a good idea because, and you have to respect that, And then I will have a trouble because I wouldn't really know how to record sound on boom mic and using the mixer and so on, right? I think that it's time to let Wisely share this story because he was very close to it.
So as I shared in the show, at the jetty, I actually told Chongqing, I'm 9 out of 10. I hope that something happened, or rather, not something bad happened, but we managed to capture something. We don't need to provoke them, we just go there and share their stories. And actually got a feeling that we actually may capture something if you focus enough, and you are actually able to attract their attention, because your mind is in tune with them, the right frequency. So you are actually, as you share the story, you're actually in a way, getting their attention. So the environment, the atmosphere is perfect, and it's a rare opportunity that all the professionals are around, the sound man, so many cameras around, because we ourselves as a ghost hunter, we cannot cover all these areas, with our limited resources and knowledge. We may have our EMF, we have one or two cameras and all this. For example, the audio, the sound, is something that, that many times we tend to overlook because we tend to focus too much on our feelings, visual. The sound is actually very important because sometimes entities, they may not manifest themselves, but they will communicate to us through certain, either a higher or lower frequency that, can be captured, on certain devices. Then when we play back, we can actually hear it. Yeah, so this is very similar to what we have encountered many years ago at the same location.
Even as you're recounting it, like, my hair is standing out on end because I remember I'm just having flashbacks to that episode that I watched.
Just to add on, this also give us a new perspective, because many times those ghosts or spirits or entities that we encounter, they are really like fragments of memories, images. It's all distorted. To have something that actually remember us for more than 5 years, 5, 6, 7 years. Yeah, so many
7
years.
years.
It's
Yeah, 7 years.
yeah, 7 years. It's really amazing. It's really amazing. This actually provide us with a very good case study that entities, some entities at least, they do remember.
Because you're saying that how part of your job, part of your interest is to find like rational science explanations for this sort of thing. Are you able to come up with one for in this particular example?
Lorenzo, he's fine now, don't worry. So I was holding on to him, the various signs and symptoms that he displayed, or rather the surrounding display, is not normal.
Feels very, very angry. I suddenly feel very cold, I don't know why.
This is not something that you can get it or you can explain. Then, I realized, something is around us, trying to reach out to us. So while holding on to him, I was trying to assess the situation. Luckily, it didn't escalate a lot. There's no scientific explanation. And this is what we classify as paranormal. If things can be explained through science, then it's not paranormal, it's normal. So this is always our first cut. We try to solve it first, find an answer. If all fails, then we will label this as paranormal. This is a good information and good case study for us. Second time we have this because if you ask me, this is a very typical case of a possession at a very initial stage. So yes, we don't really get this. Yeah.
Just to understand what you said, we said that things did escalate. So if you had not left with you, Dennis Kok Hong had not left at that point and you stayed longer, then what do you think would have happened?
I think there are a lot of possibilities. It's really depending on how we can assist Lorenzo, because the entity clearly she is targeting at Lorenzo. It's basically like it's a viral infection. You are infected by the virus. Your body got to fight it, and then the doctors, the healthcare workers, we will support you. So there are a lot of possibilities what may happen. So it's case by case. So if the worst case scenario will be he really went into a deep possession. If that's the case, it will be quite tricky to handle, because if you believe in ghosts and spirits and entities, clearly we all have a soul in this physical body. So if something external tries to enter your body, there will clearly be a fight. Your own soul and the spirit. So who will win, who will lose, nobody knows. Yeah. So I can't tell you what will happen. It really depends on individual. Me standing beside Lorenzo, the first thing that I actually felt was actually the sudden dip in the temperature. It was quite a humid night.
And it's only for the four of you, so the rest of the crew didn't feel cold.
I felt that too. We felt the change of temperature definitely in the forest back then, especially in natural environments, because it could be due to a lot of, factors, right? Like winds, conditions, air, or anything, right? But the sudden drop in temperature was just one thing.
Yes. And I was standing beside Lorenzo, and beside me was Chongqing, Dennis. So I could actually felt someone, gently pushing me.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. Which made me, turn to the side. And true enough, even Chongqing also felt someone, some presence over there. If I only felt it on my own, I may be imagining things. But if two person also felt it, it's really, yes, it's very weird. And after that, Lorenzo, when he got affected, his emotion, the change in emotion, his face, his skin color, when I touch him, it's really cold. And this is one of the signs and symptoms, that, when you touch the person, it's cold. He's really feeling very cold. And for the sudden drop of temperature, although we're in the forest, there may be sudden dip in the temperature, but this also, overlap with one of the theory called the cold spot. When entities try to manifest themselves, they will draw the energy and, apparently create, a sudden dip in the temperature. When we say dip, it's really deep, it could be more than 10 degrees. Yeah, it's not 1 or 2 degrees, that kind of thing. So it's very obvious. And I also noticed there was a drizzle, the later part, okay? And I realized the area that we were filming, it was drier.
Oh my goodness.
Yes.
At that moment when I think they all were saying, okay, we need to go to the jetty. The producer of mine just immediately said, everybody zao to the jetty and leave the PAs behind to clear all the rubbish. And I'm like, man, I was like, the first thing was, I'm going to take my hats off. I'm going to clap for these PAs for their job because they had to go in there and clear all of that stuff and all the gear and everything. Oh man, I'm going to forget it. Just zao, and leave all your barang down there.
The thing is that I think all of us were still quite calm, the crew members. We didn't get all paranoid about it. Yeah, we were still quite calm. We were still doing our job. Lorenzo recovered the moment we left the forest. Just the moment we crossed the barrier, the barrier between the forest and the so-called public environment. Yeah, he just very quickly recovered. So we had a happy ending.
It must be so weird to be a resident on the island and to hear all that singing every day.
And there were very few remaining residents on the island today, and most of them are older folks already, I mean, all the young ones have Zhou. The older folks are more calm about these things.
They probably find the monkeys more dangerous.
Yeah.
Is this one of the bigger things that happened to you in your time of doing all these paranormal investigations?
We have similar cases before, and on my personal account, I do witness young Singaporeans, getting possessed, so-called, and then they went into hysterical, and we have to find ways to help them to calm them down, to resolve the situation. Of course, for this this episode, it didn't escalate to that extent, but definitely this is something that we have been through before. But we do it for fun, for hobby, but we are very serious about it, and we sometimes also get calls from the public that requires help, be it their house or the individual, him or herself. So we need all this case study to equip ourselves with the right experience, because we cannot just find an answer from a book or from someone. We have to plug information all over the place and try to piece them down together, just like a jigsaw puzzle. Yeah.
So was there ever a time when someone called you down, right, and say something's happening at my house, and then actually you found a very reasonable explanation for what was happening?
Yeah, plenty of it. Even before we went down, sometimes we try to help them via phone calls or through emails, to give them some advice to see if the problem persists. And then we do it step by step. We don't straight away go down, because we do it for free, ma.
If you want to discover more uncool stories, subscribe now and follow us on social media. You can also tell us your uncool stories at contact@creatives@work.asia, and you can find out how we can partner together. Now that sounds like a pretty cool idea to me.
But I'm also thinking, right, because I do PM, PC, and producing sometimes. I'm also quite curious, and I've never done a shoot like this before. And I actually hope I never have to. But Kok Hong, on you and your team side, what kind of preparation did you have to make in order to go for a shoot like this? And then did you guys even think like, okay, if something happened, this is our plan B? Did you have all of these thoughts running in your head before you all went into a shoot like this?
To be honest, there wasn't, as you know, in Singapore, doing TV production and all that, most of the time you're just in a mad rush, right? So you had to get your script ready, you had to get your script approved, you had to get your team and everything ready and all that. So by the time things are ready, then that's it, go shoot already. So I mean, you also cannot over prep for such supernatural situations, right? Because nobody could predict. So in the first place, I guess, because unlike Wisely, I'm very inexperienced in this. I didn't go in expecting any spooky experiences to really happen. I went in thinking that it would just be like any of the factual productions that I have done in the past, where you just go and basically film something according to your script or your vision or your plan. On that offshore island, before we started filming, we did burn a whole pile of Chinese offering papers and candles and joss sticks and with the huat kueh, with the oranges as offerings and all that before we started, filming the interviews about their ghost stories. And I remember Wisely was telling all of us after that, the moment you started burning the candles or the moment you started using incense in that kind of environments right away, you would naturally attract them to you because you burn all this to call
Oh
them
my
to
god.
you,
Right.
right, Wisely?
Right. So it's like drawing attention to yourself.
So wisely, your advice would actually have been, don't do that. Is it?
If you don't do it and you just went straight into filming or do whatever you want, you may not draw them, but your speech, your action, the frequency will also naturally draw them. Yeah. So by burning incense or candles, yes, you are actually, in a way, communicating to them, but it's all done out of respect. We don't want to provoke anything or anyone. We are just here to film, to tell your story. So we it is done in a very respectful manner. So this is also our take when we go out for ghost hunting or what. We don't provoke them. We always go out, with with a very respectful mindset. If you ask me again, I would still think that it's right, to do a bit of prayers, offerings. Yeah.
Okay, but wisely, I want to just to understand from your experience, do you ever encounter scenarios whereby these things or these entities, however you want to call them, actually follow you like home or something out of away, like let's say it follows you to the jetty away from or back to Singapore and back to home and all that. Would that have been possible?
If within a small group, we have better control. Just like our episode after that, we actually did a bit of cleansing using cultural methods. I think that helps, be it spiritually or psychologically. So, but in a very big group, we may not be able to control. We can also only give advice because we do have, big groups following us in the early days to cemeteries, to tell stories. Some of them do feedback to us, they still feel or sense something when they got home. But usually this kind of thing will, go off after a few days.
Kok Hong, after producing 8 episodes, especially since you started out as a not really believer, how did producing the 8 episodes affect your psyche now and about this particular aspect of the paranormal?
I remember going back to the office after the shoot, like at 4 a.m., 5 a.m., and I was alone in the office and then having to like lock up office and all that. I remember I was so terrified of having to even go to the toilet to pee, even though that I urgently needed to pee because I was all by myself and the entire office space was like quite dark, right? So for a period of time, I was like really like very conscious about this thing exists. But by now, I guess we wrapped the shoot like 2 months already, I think. So I think things kind of like return to normal. We always go through, as human, we always go through this, right? I mean, unless it's like a huge trauma lah, where it will haunt you for the rest of your life, right? Like for example, we suffered so much during the pandemic. Now that things are slowly going back to normal and all that, we kind of like, okay, go back to the old self a little bit more, right? We kind of also like have forgotten, quite a fair bit about how much we just suffered, in 2020, for example. I did not want to so-called go into this as a believer because I feel that if I fully believe in it, no offense to wisely, they know how much I respect and love all of them. Yeah, but it's just personally for me, my choice is that I would rather not be a believer simply because I feel that it will affect my day-to-day living. Yeah.
But from your experience from the 8 episodes, what do you think was the coolest? Wisely's one obviously is very dramatic, but in general, what do you think was the coolest episode you did?
I mean, definitely the offshore one was the coolest because it was really real. It really happened, and we managed to capture it on camera, which was very rare. Other than that, there was another episode that we made about haunted buildings, right? And we went to this really scary looking black and white house. And that particular experience was also quite cool because it really felt very, very, very spooky right there. And so spooky to the point of my cameraman just refused to shoot the building after that, when I knew that, I still needed to shoot a few more angles of the building just for the sake of making the show look more cool. So I had to take over the camera from my main cameraman because he just didn't feel comfortable anymore. And he told me that I think you already have enough Kok Hong. Don't push it. Don't push it. So we kind of like escalated in a little bit of tense situation between me and the cameraman because I told him that, hey, it's fine if you don't want to shoot it. Just let me take over the camera. No offense, but let me take over the camera because I would like to, now that we are here, we still have a bit more time. I just personally would like to have a bit more shots, even if I don't use it in the end. I ended up filming it, you know. And then I also remember while we were filming that episode, so one of the stories was about an army camp that was built on a plot of old Malay cemetery. So because there was a very important angle to that ending to the story, like the profile shared that, like they realized that why it was so spooky, why you cannot eat pork, why pork is banned in this environment, because they knew that it used to be a Malay cemetery right here. As a producer, I needed to get some Malay cemetery footage, at night, right? Just to have that as the ending to the story, right? And we went to the Malay cemetery at night, and my cameraman also didn't feel comfortable anymore by then. It's not because, he was being unprofessional or anything. He just couldn't do it. He just wouldn't do it. So, same thing, they all stay in the van. So, I took over the camera and I did it myself.
So
Yeah.
you sound very committed to Kok Hong. So I wanted to ask you from a producer's point of view, right? Topics like supernatural, they're not very original in a sense. I mean, from a TV perspective, right?
Yeah, no, of course not.
There's plenty of shows. When you approach a topic like this, where it has been done like many times, how do you find originality in it?
Well, I think in the first place, uh, a factual ghost so-called documentary, it was the real accounts from all these Singaporeans that we invited on the show, yeah. So for us is one is that it is definitely an opportunity to just basically share it as it is, as they experienced it, right? So this is something already quite rare in Singapore, even though perhaps other countries have done a lot, right? But in Singapore, because of our censorship and so on, right, we never got to really make a factual ghost series like this one, right? So in on that note, it is already a little bit fresh lah or groundbreaking because most of our ghost series are like dramatized or fiction, right? And in terms of how to keep it original and all that, I think we just kept to the concept from the beginning because we pitched it in this way, and the broadcaster bought the concept in this way as well. And I had to like deliver according to what we pitched to the broadcaster in the first place. Otherwise, they will hold me responsible, right? I went through like intensive or in-depth research with them before we decided to go with them, and we went through this important casting process lah to just make sure these are the kind of people that we could trust. These are the kind of people who are credible, because there would be a lot of people who might just want to do a TV show and then they can just say whatever they want on camera, and there's no way that you can fact check or whatsoever, right, for this kind of stories. Yeah, but someone like Wisely, for example, when you talk to him, you already know that, he is trustworthy, right? He is, credible, and knowledgeable, as a matter of fact. So yeah, I think we managed to put together all this important combination of like great characters, compelling stories that they could share. And also, the most important selling point, I guess, would be to just really like bring the crew and everyone to these really haunted, spooky places, in the middle of the night, and just film it there and see what will happen. And we also use like some of these scientific devices are like EMF meter as well as thermal sensor, to just we learn all this from people like Wisely because they are the expert in this field. They were the one who recommended or advised us right on this technicality. So yeah, I think this is the combination of various factors that make it work.
On this show, we're always talking about the psyche of what you do. Do you think this hobby of yours that you've been doing for so many years has affected your outlook on life and how you live it?
Definitely, yes. I mean, something common among us, the paranormal group, is that no matter how big or small the matter is, we will always try to find out the rationale, the reasoning behind it. And if someone tells us something, we will always ask questions, ask and ask who, what, when, how, why. We will always do that. This is something like our second nature, whereby, some of my other friends, who are not so interested in paranormal, they may not be so critical. So for us, I think in a way we have this common, nature in us. Me and my friends, Lorenzo or some other friends, we always ask a lot of questions. Yeah, not because we don't believe or we are being rude or disrespectful. We want to know more. We want to know the rationale behind it, and we cannot just blindly follow it. And if you talk about how does this affect us, I think paranormal is something not new to everyone. In the history of human civilization, human beings have been interacting with the paranormal world all the time. If you talk about ancestor worship, many cultures have that. And who are the ancestors? Technically speaking, they are entities, they are spirits. And if you define spirits as, spirit of the dead, of the deceased, then ancestor falls under this category. So if you perform ancestor worship, to a certain extent, you also handle or deal with something supernatural, but you do it with a set of rule and regulation. That's why you're not afraid. We are only afraid, we are fearful, whereby we do not have a guideline. We are exposed to a lot of uncertainties. This gets us nervous, and we tend to, either overthink, hallucinate, and we tend to scare ourselves. So if we are aware of all this information, all this knowledge that we gather, this way we can actually counter our fear. So in life, this is how we counter our fear. We can be fearful of a lot of things. Paranormal is just one of the many things. So with that mindset, we can use the same approach to overcome our fear in many things. So you see, we have money, we have food. A lot of us, that do not, people who are not familiar with Asian culture, they will think that, oh, you are trying to bribe the spirits, using money. You burn paper money, you are so materialistic, it's all about money. But this is not the case, actually. There is a reason behind burning Jaws paper, the gold paper or the silver paper, there's a reason to it. It's actually to appease them, to send them off. Or if it's done in a particular ritual, it's actually to invite them, depending on the objective. So it actually serves a very real spiritual function. Right. First and foremost, I think something that Kok Hong mentioned is very true. Because this whole paranormal thing is really not the usual stuff that people are dealing with. So if you want to know more about it, at the end of the day, unless you are making it out for a living, you are a religious person. Other than that, make sure that whatever you do, your research, your investigating, will not affect your normal life. For example, we actually try out and try to find out more about this Ouija board, whereby there's this board that communicates with the spirits many years back, and we actually have members who got so attached to it, and they want to play with it and try it for every weekends. So clearly, this has become a form of addiction. We have to be very mindful. There are a lot of risks involved. If you actually take it as real, and then this will lead you to the wrong path. I think the immediate risk is not so much of the paranormal or supernatural; is the risk around us. Like what Kok Hong mentioned, the environment that we went to film, it's pitch dark. The darkness, the outdoor. Who knows? Who will you encounter? we went, overseas, with our paranormal group, for holiday, but we also throw in some investigation. This is our main concern, the actual physical risk. We went to Malaysia, to do some investigation, some abandoned building in KL. We are not afraid of the ghosts and spirits. We are more afraid of, if there's anyone inside, trying to be funny.
What about for you, Kong, as a non-fiction producer?
Being a TV producer, a documentary maker, you go through life making all kinds of shows, right? Because we don't choose what kind of shows we make from time to time, right? And we have grown to be extremely open-minded in everything that we see in the world. It's damn stressful. So don't come into this job thinking that, wow, it's so cool, it's so fun and all that. Yes, it is fun and cool. If you were to compare to like a journalist, right, what makes our job more meaningful, in my opinion, is that every time we take on a project, the amount of time that we get to, spend on filming a story, is a bit longer, and therefore it is much more immersive, right? So for example, I just made this 8-part ghost series, and we spent like 4 months just working with all these people, and then it was an immersive experience, just being able to spend the time with people like Wisely, Lorenzo, and all that. And in the process, you make friends that you normally wouldn't have the opportunity to make. And you also get to learn and be exposed to a lot of topics or subjects that you normally wouldn't get to learn about from anywhere. So supernatural is just one of the experiences, in our life. I also do not want any of you to walk away thinking that, oh, I don't subscribe to all this blah blah. It's not that, it's just a choice of not wanting to so-called get too involved in this, simply because I want to keep my life the way it is. Yeah, I don't want to get too scared about living alone, going to some, quiet places by myself. I want to just be able to kind of like live life free from all this fear, because, believing in ghosts brings along a lot of fear. You just get so paranoid. And also, fear in this context also can be about believing in superstition as well, because you cannot exactly know for sure whether it is really true or not, right? So if you subscribe too much, then you could get too superstitious, and that's also not very healthy, in my opinion. Yeah, but at the same time, please don't get me wrong, no offense to all the believers out there. I mean, I respect everything, and the supernatural or the ghost is just one of the entities that I respect. Yeah, so I think, I think what is more important to me is to just go on living life in the straight path, I guess. Just do the right thing, be a good human being.
What experience would you give to those who want to be like you, and be like a documentary producer in future?
If anyone were to want to come into this industry, definitely, I think first and foremost, you have to be able to endure stress lah, because the deadlines are very intense, and clients, broadcasters' expectations are very, very high, and they are getting higher and higher. So you have to be able to deal with the stress of like very tight timeline, very small budget, and at the same time managing, clients' high expectations. Doesn't matter how little time or how little money you get to spend on making your show, the expectations get higher and higher and higher as you grow. So on one hand, it is one of the coolest jobs, but on the other hand, it comes with a lot of stress, a lot of anxieties, a lot of fears of failing.
So, if our listeners want to find out more about you and your society and the adventures you go out to, or even just to find out more about your research and how they can, explore this paranormal world a little bit more safely, where can they find you and your society, Wisely?
We are on Facebook, so just key in our name, Society of Paranormal Investigators Singapore, and you will see us. So we got a page. You can just follow us, and then we will have postings, and then feel free to comment and discuss. We want to have a safe environment whereby nobody will laugh at you. Just come in, just share your stories, tell us how do you think, and then we can discuss. So paranormal investigation or research may not be always outfield, we can always do it at our comfort. In a way, let's discuss and not treat it as a taboo. Of course, not saying that you should be so involved that it actually affects your daily lives. Yeah. For us, I think you can reach out because we are a teamwork. I'm not a one-man show. So it's just Google, on Facebook, on this Twitter, just search for, Society of Paranormal Investigators, and you can see our icon. So I think this is our icon here. Yeah. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Some merch.
Mm-hmm.
And what about for you, Kok Hong? If our listeners want to follow more of your work, or maybe the work of Loh Pictures, how can they follow you on your socials?
Well, my full name is Loh Kok Hong, so that's where you can find me. That's my handle. As for my work and all that right now, 周公讲鬼哪里有鬼 is available on YouTube free of charge. Feel free to watch it. We just launched it a few weeks ago, and it's still quite fresh. Other work from Ochre Pictures. Ochre has a Facebook page as well as an Instagram account. Just search for Ochre Pictures, and most of our shows are available on all the MediaCorp platforms.
You can catch the show on MeWatch and YouTube on the links below. And then speaking of YouTube, you can also check out our page at the link below. Check us out. We've got other guests coming in more episodes. You can also go to YouTube and check out our old episodes. You just have to subscribe to our YouTube page for more of these updates.
Yep, and do remember to drop us a 5-star rating because it's cool to be uncool. Catch you next time.
Like this show? Then rate it 5 stars and subscribe to us on YouTube, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. Uncool is a podcast by creatives at work. It is produced, written, and hosted by Sean Lee Win Cheong and co-hosted by Yenling Loh, co-produced by Raven Lim, and edited by Ray Ng. Uncool. It's cool to be uncool.
On the next episode of Uncool,
You worked with Tom Hardy, you worked with Forrest Whitaker. What was it like working with these casts?
The camera was on me. It was my day to perform. The assistant actually called Mr. Forrest, maybe you can take a break. He said, no, Sonny needs my eyeline, man. That's like how gracious this you can get from an Academy Award winner. You know what I mean?
Uncool. New episodes every Saturday.